Hi, I'm Yue Zhang, and today I'm going to talk about the Laozi and his Tao Te Ching. Unfortunately, to fully explain Laozi and his writing Tao Te Ching is quite a large work and maybe take some semesters to study them. So I barely pick one chapter of the Tao Te Ching and to explore it further to understand some of the Laozi's idea. The chapter picking is the 48. It can be divided into three parts. Let's see the first part. The pursuit of learning is to increase day after day. The pursuit of Tao is to decrease day after day. The first part of synthesis is easy to understand since the pursuit of learning is just like study the philosophy, a knowledge of this class. We're reading the book, going to the lectures and memorizing all those information into our head. This information is getting bigger and bigger. And for the second part, the pursuit of Tao is to decrease day after day. The first impression of this part is very interesting, since usually we think if we pursue something, we will get more and more. But for Tao, it's another step. If we pursue the Tao or the way, it will get smaller and finally maybe just into one or two key ideas. For example, while we are learning the Confucians or Taoism, we have to read a lot of their writings and the analysis and summary of them. And once we truly fully understand them, and those knowledge can be just summarized into one or two key words or idea. For example, for Taoism is Wei and Po. For Confucius is Ren Yi Li Zhi Xing. Their writing was just trying to explain those key ideas. Let's see the example of this. Imitate others and thus lose one's own individuality. This is a pretty famous story in China. A man wants to learn graceful walking gesture, so he travels to Handan, which is far away from his home. As soon as he arrived in Handan, he was dazzled to find that everything was noble. He learned from the children there how to walk because he thought its walking is lively and pleasing to the eye. He learned from the old people there how to walk because he thought the old people's walking gestures were steady. He learned from the woman there how to walk because he thought the woman's swaying walking gestures were beautiful. That being the case with him in less than half a month, he even forgot how to walk. As he already used up his traveling expenses, he had to crawl back home. In this story, that man learned more and more, and finally seems like his brain is get overwhelming and unable to use just his basic walking gestures. This is very usual in study some hard courses, for example, like study maths. Many one did very well at the beginning to just learning some chapter of the differentiation or derivatives. But later on, as the knowledge get more and more, they need to learn how to use those formulas wisely. and with some critical thinking. And unfortunately, many fail to find exam because they get overwhelming and messed up with all the formulas and knowledge they learned through the semester. So that is why Lao Tzu told us that the pursuit of Tao is to decrease day after day. We need to compress and analyze the knowledge we learned and make it close to the key idea or close to the Tao. The second part, it is to decrease and further decrease until one reaches the point of taking no actions. For this part, taking no actions doesn't mean just do nothing. Lao Tzu's idea of way usually asks us to do things without want to do it, without greed or without strong desire. And to decrease further, let's see the example of this. Yes, very famous rule of occult reason in science area. Entities shall not be multiplied unnecessarily. And Isaac Newton also said, nature is pleased with simplicity, and nature is no dummy. Their sentences can describe the truth of the world, since nature do not like to be very complex. We use complex step of calculation and theory just trying to reach a very simple result. Its example could be the establishment of calculus. Before calculus being established, calculation of complex situation is quite hard since they only have basic algebra and basic geometry that they can use. The level is like the high school algebra course and the high school geometry stuff. And once the calculus, the derivative, and the integral have been invented or organized by the Isaac Newton, the calculation of variable and curve become possible, and the science development is kind of blown up. They are able to calculate the orbit of the planet and the speed and acceleration of objects. Now let's move into the third part, which is Lao Tzu's application of his theory to the politics. No action is undertaken, and yet nothing is left undone. An empire is often brought to order by having no activity. If one lacks to undertake activity, he is not qualified to govern the empire. Usually we think the government will take a lot of actions to ensure the society is running steady and with rules. But the key thought of this part is that if the government make too much actions just trying to change the society's situation, the people of the society will get confused, and their actions of government can be misunderstood or misleading by the officers, and finally the chaos of society is created. There's a good example in the Chinese history from the Book of Han, which records the history period of the Han Dynasty. That's period called the rule of Wen and Jing. Wen and Jing are two emperors called Han Wendi and Han Jingdi. They are famous for their policy to recover the population and economy after the large civil war before the Han Dynasty. In their period, the empire's population rose into 4 times as before, and the economy is boosted into very high stage. The food of taxes they collected in the storage have even been wasted every year, while all the people can still all have eating and extra money to buy goods. Their key policy is kind of a very loose law. The core is if your action does not against the law, then I will not affect what you are doing. And later on, Wang Mang 改制 is another bad example of the extra action of the government. Wang Mang 改制 takes revolution on government's economy and society and create huge chaos and contradiction between the classes of the empire and leads to the biggest civil war of the Han Dynasty and ends the Western Han, leads to the beginning of the Eastern Han. Wang Mang trying to make revolution on everything and without a very good plan and consideration of what people can do and what people will think about. His action is quite similar as the Gorbachev's economy revolution at the end time of the Soviet Union. If you guys are interested, you can check the information of them and compare them. And I think that's all I can talk about chapter 48. The writing of Tao Te Ching is very decent and may take a lot, and you may have a lot understanding of them in different life stage. And so thank you.